I have been working with the Gallup organization, as in the Gallup poll, for about 15 years as a consultant for them, doing StrengthsFinder training and helping people understand really what that means, what that looks like, what are my strengths, what are my talents, how do I do what I do, why do I do what I do, and thinking about those kinds of things and looking at that. The last 4.5, 5 years, I've had my own consulting. I do strengths-based consulting, where I try to help organizations figure out ways that they can continue to grow within their company. They can grow their employees through development. They can increase the productivity and drive performance, manage performance, leadership development, those kinds of things. And so it's a great tool. Some of you may be familiar. How many are familiar with StrengthsFinder, the instrument and the assessment, okay? Sometimes, I'm not sure what your familiarity is, but sometimes folks will say, oh yeah, I know what it is. We took it. I've got a love-hate relationship with it. I had a manager that said this was going to help us grow, it's going to help us understand each other, it's going to help us work better together, we are going to be great by the time we get done with this. That was 3 years ago. We took it and have never had another conversation about it. And so looking at that, sometimes it loses a little bit of its value when that takes place. But one of the things I want to share with you today, we're going to look at a little bit around understanding what StrengthsFinder does for the individual, for the organization, how it ties into engagement, and some of those kinds of specifics. I'll give you a little bit of information about what the tool looks like and how it works, and just kind of talk about how strengths-based teams impact engagement. At your table, you've got some handouts that will follow not every single slide from my presentation, but a lot of them. You've also got my business card and then a pocket card there that gives you a little bit more about what I do and some information there, contact information. I'd be happy to have conversations with you when this is over if you would like. To get us started, I want you to turn to a partner. Some of you know each other, some of you do not. I want you to take just a minute and I want you to introduce yourself to the person next to you. Give them your name, and then I want you to tell them, if you don't know them, where you're from and what kind of work you do. And then think about a word or a phrase that you would use to describe yourself. How do you define yourself? That's got to be positive, okay? Not what everyone else uses to describe you, but a word that you would use to define or describe yourself, or a phrase. And then I want you to think about an accomplishment that you've had in the last 3 months that you're really proud of. What have you done? It can be personal, it can be professional. It can be anything. How is it that you have come to achieve something in the last 2 or 3 months that you feel really good about, okay? And I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be something that's trophy worthy, you know, like employee of the quarter. If you did, great, we want to applaud that. But whatever it is that you identify as an accomplishment in your own personal and professional life, okay? I'm going to give you a few minutes, have that conversation before we get started. All right, let's come back together. Have you had a chance to meet the people next to you? Hopefully you had a little bit of a dialogue, met a new friend perhaps, bragged on yourself some. Someone share with us your word or phrase to describe yourself and your accomplishment. Don't be shy. This is a judgment-free zone. We're just going to share and celebrate together. Don't be shy. Who wants to start us off? Just shout it out. Motivated. All right. And adapted. Oh, okay. Good. So, and any kind of, she saw the chocolate here. So if I talk, I get some chocolate. Any accomplishment? Oh, you just moved here. So that's an accomplishment in and of itself, right? Having to adapt to that. Good. Somebody else? Come on. Involved is the word. Okay. Got through the meeting with the HR director and employee, so that's a big accomplishment sometimes, right? Good. Somebody else. Who are you? What makes you tick? What is it that defines or describes you? How is it that you celebrate your accomplishments and view those happening in your world? I know, it's Friday morning. There's a little bit more coffee over there if you need it. Anybody? Oh, right here. Well, oh, yes. Hi. Very nice. Good job. He's unique, and he bought a new condo, and his name is Max. There you go. Somebody else. Yes. Okay. She's strong, and she potty trained a toddler. Were you strong before or after potty training that toddler? Good job. Good job. She gets 2. Is that what she said? All right, I'll give you 2 for that one. Somebody else. Come on. I like to have involvement in my session. This is the first of many, not so much. Yes, right here. Okay. Oh, for a week and a half, he cleaned his office and his car, and they're still clean after a week and a half. Great. His word is seeking. I ask you to do this for several reasons. One is the fact that it gives you a chance to just sort of get involved in what's happening, think about who you are. It gives you a chance to reflect and sort of sets the stage for what we're talking about today and how we're going to get to where I want to take you. It also provides you an opportunity to just reflect on what you do well. Who are you? What have you accomplished in the last 2 or 3 months? We don't celebrate very often. Some of us, we just keep going. And we look back and think, wow, I guess I have kind of done a few things. And some of us get so busy thinking about all the things we don't do and who we aren't and how great, other people are, and I wish I was more like them, and if only I could do something different there or here or whatever. And so thinking about that, we get lost in what everyone else is doing, and we forget about the great things that we're doing. We have employees in our organization that feel the same way. Sometimes they just think, well, I'm not doing anything really major. I was in Western Kansas this week, and I was working with a department, a team within this company, and I asked what their goal and their kind of takeaway was that they wanted for that full day that we were spending together. And one of the ladies says, I just want to know what it is that I do that can finally get me a little bit of recognition and set me apart from everybody else around here. I applauded her for her honesty. It was a bold thing to say with her team, with her boss sitting there. But yet to recognize there are people in our organization that are so caught up looking at someone else. We compare often, as Stephen Furtick says, we compare our behind-the-scenes film with someone else's highlight reel. But if I wasn't behind the scenes to help you have the highlights, then it'd be kind of difficult perhaps. Maybe it's my highlight reel someday and you're behind the scenes another day. And what I want you to do is think about what you do and who you are and how it is that you continue to stay motivated in the workplace and in your personal and your professional life. And the same thing for our employees. How do we motivate them? How do we keep them connected and engaged and involved in what we're doing? Another reason that I ask you to do this is my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Don Clifton, who wrote the StrengthsFinder assessment and that was the president and the owner of the Gallup organization, said the meeting doesn't really start until we hear the sound of our own voice. Because when you ask people to be connected and to talk and have a conversation, they're a little bit more engaged. Try it in your next staff meeting, in your next team meeting or project development meeting. Ask people to just share one thing about themselves. They'll be a little bit more engaged in that meeting because you never know when you're going to ask them to participate again. A little method to my madness. Dr. Clifton, one of the ways that we can think about how to introduce and keep our employees sort of motivated, engaged in what we're doing, is an instrument called the StrengthsFinder assessment. The StrengthsFinder is this tool. I'll tell you more about it later, but Dr. Don Clifton wrote the assessment. He wrote it based on the fact that he was teaching at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and he was talking to his students in psychology class, and he was talking about the problems people have and how it is that we're going to try to help people solve their problems and get them to a better place. And he literally stopped in his sentence, and he stopped in his tracks, and he said, we're kind of doing this wrong. What would happen if we study what's right with people instead of what's wrong with people? What if we look at what it is that drives them and engages them and empowers them and enables them to do what they do rather than always seeing what they're not doing? What they don't do, what they can't do, what they're not going to be able to do. And so recognizing that. And this is a different kind of an approach because conventional wisdom says that we have to find out what's wrong with people and then fix it. And when we do that, what happens is it can result in a culture of mediocrity and disengagement because we're always looking at everything that's wrong instead of, wow, you really bring a lot to the table. We want to celebrate that. We want to value that. And so thinking about that becomes a part of it. So this is where the whole idea of strengths and StrengthsFinder began. Dr. Clifton used his research team, and over 4 decades they interviewed over 2 million people. And they would go to everyone in the organization and in all the different professions, every profession you could possibly think of. And they asked the question, tell me, you've been identified as the best of the best HR director. You've been identified as the best of the best CEO, manager, supervisor, every profession, every title, every level. What is it that you do on a regular basis every single day that creates for you this title, if you will, as the best of the best? And they began to respond by, I just do what I do best. They build their lives and their daily routine around what they do best and their talents and their abilities, and they learn to manage their weaknesses. And they begin to see there's some themes. And from the themes, he wrote the StrengthsFinder. And from that, it began to be this tool that measures talents and helps people. The perspective around this is that everybody has what it takes to be successful. We all have something within us that is what it takes to be successful. But again, we don't see that sometimes. We lose that along the way because somebody else seems to be producing more. In the strengths world, if you've taken StrengthsFinder, this will make sense to you, but my strengths are achiever and discipline and focus and significance and competition. So it's real easy for me to make a list and see what I'm doing on a regular basis and how I'm going to get there. And at the end of the day, I can measure my success and my accomplishment, and I feel good about what I've done. I have a friend who has the woo and communication and positivity and connections, real high relationship skills. And sometimes the tendency might be to look at people like that and say, well, what'd you do all day? Just talk to people? I made them smile. I made them feel good. Yeah, but how do you measure that? See, and there's differences. But we all have what it takes to be successful. Sometimes we use the wrong scale. And so thinking about that and looking at that, we get to recognize those things, especially when we're in human resources. It's called human resources. Let's use those people to help us get to a better place, to increase our productivity, to give them a chance to do what they do best and excel and feel good about what they're doing and their contributions. Celebrate it, build on it, all of those kinds of things. And then individuals, another aspect of this is that we gain more when we build on our talent than when we are making comparable efforts to improve our areas of weakness. I'm not suggesting that when you take the StrengthsFinder and you start looking at that and focusing on that, that it's an excuse. Just because I don't have a lot of empathy, kind of zero empathy in the scale of things, the grand scheme of things, all of those assessments, that you take about how you care and compassionate about people, yeah, I come up pretty much nothing. True story. All my life. But I don't get to say, well, you know what, I think Tim's back there in the back. He's got some empathy. Go see him. He'll take good care of you today. I don't get to do that. Likewise, I don't get to say, well, I have competition, so sorry, come along. If you don't want to win, you don't want to fight for the victory, then too bad. Finding that balance, recognizing what I do and what I bring to the organization or to the team or to the relationship, to the project, is what's important. How do we keep our employees engaged in what they're doing? The mission of strengths really is maximizing the asset that we have. The assets that we have in our companies and organizations are the people. There's infinite potential developing what is right with people. When we see that, when we acknowledge that, when we bring that out, there is infinite potential in developing and maximizing those around us. When we look at strengths, it has some concepts that we look at in the fact that it begins with talent. It begins with our talent. Who are you? Where do you start? What is it, your natural reaction to things, your natural response to things, the way you think or feel or behave? Some of you walked into this room this morning and you thought, oh man, there's a whole bunch of people here that I don't know and I hope I don't have to talk to any of them. Some of you walked in and go, wow, there's like 100 people here. These are 100 new friends waiting to happen. I need to work the room. Give me time. Some of you sat down, you started looking at the material like, okay, how long is this going to take? We got to stay on schedule. What are we going to do? Others of you are like, okay, if I can sit with my friend, I'm going to be really happy today. I don't care what the speaker says, but I'm with my friend, and that's all that matters. Some of you are like, wow, how much information are they going to give me? And I'm going to have to think about all this. I'm going to have all this information, and what am I going to do with it? They expect me to give back something out of it. I don't know how that's going to happen because I need time to process it. Randall said, I'm the kind of person, I'll take the information, I'll take the data, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to study it, I'm going to analyze it, I'm going to keep working over the numbers. We all have different abilities. We all have a group of talent within us, everybody. And those talents hold the key to your achievement, to your success, to your performance, to what you do, to what drives you, what you love and what you hate. Comes out of the talent that you possess and where you start and how you view your world. When we know what our talents are and those are valued and those are continued to be developed and encouraged, it builds confidence. When I can see that it's okay to be who I am, I can embrace that, it develops confidence in who I am and what I do. The beauty about StrengthsFinder, and again, some of you have used DISC, you've used Myers-Briggs, you've used Holland, you've used lots of strong inventory, you've used lots of other inventories and assessments. It's another tool. This one has a significant amount of research to it, about 50 years worth. They're still doing research on and on and on. The one thing about strengths is that because it begins with talent, and we're trying to help people develop their talents into strengths, is the fact that you can use these in all areas of your life. Because they're talents. It's innate with who you are. It's not the kind of thing where when I'm here this morning speaking to you, this is who I am. Then I go to my hotel room or I go to the landing or whatever and have dinner and I'm a whole different person. I still have the same expectations. I still have the same values. I still have the same way I process information. I still have the same way I want things just right. I want my fork, and everything just lined up perfect. I'm still that same person. In my leadership, I'm the same person. And I use the same aspect and talents and abilities. It's just the way that I use them, whether it's healthy or not, whether it's productive or not. That's where we get in trouble. Well, this is who I am. Okay, let's use it in healthy and productive ways. Let's be good about it. Let's find the way to do it. And that way it works better. And it's in our profession, the way we learn, the way we lead, the way we have relationships, build relationships, all of that has to do with who we are and the talents that we possess. And StrengthsFinder gives language to that. It gives information to that. It gives people another voice, if you will, around, around those things. It's behaviors. When I talk to people, I do a lot of coaching as well, and when I talk to people, and I'll say to them maybe a couple sessions in, I'll say, I think I want you to do the StrengthsFinder assessment. Well, what is that? It measures the presence of talent. It will help us understand what some of your natural talents are, and then we can begin to build on that and really enhance how great you are and direct you toward really enlivening and empowering you. And they'll say to me, well, what if it comes up blank? Because I don't have any talent. Like, well, it's not music, and it's not art, and it's not athletics. That's part of it. Those are tangible. I can see that. They're intangibles. It's behaviors. There are certain behaviors that you engage yourself in without even thinking about it. So if anybody's ever said to you, how do you do that? How do I do what? I have no idea what I just did, but I don't know. Or they'll say, why do you do it that way? I just do. That's who I am. It's how I work. And so it's the behaviors that make you effective and efficient. It's the thought patterns. Randall, I'm going to pick on Randall again because he already told you a little bit about himself. The way he thinks about things, the way he takes in information, the way he processes it. Thought patterns. There are certain beliefs that you have. Some of you have beliefs that you are going to, it's a hill to die on. They are core values. They run deep, and everything you do funnels through that. Attitudes. Some of you, your attitude about life is that everything is great, everything is sunny, it's all positive. We can all get along. There should be peace in the world and harmony. Empathy, all of those things. Some of you are very motivated by the win, by the victory, by the greatest amount of sales, by whatever, the goals that you set, and you reach them, and you have the eye on the prize all the time. Those are all, it's habits, it's impulses, it's how you view the world, how you see people. All of this, when we start recognizing the way people come at situations and recognize that this is who they are, and we start valuing that instead of criticizing that and getting caught in a negative sentiment toward that person, we begin to find engagement. We begin to find that they're more motivated, they're more involved, they're more connected, they want to be there, they want to continue contributing. And so it begins to be a part of that that is important. So let's look at this. We've got a big room here. I like to do this with a lot of groups because it illustrates the differences that we have. This is not in your notes, I don't think. So I want you to just raise your hand. I want you to be honest here, okay? Raise your hand if you're the kind of person that will talk to people on elevators and airplanes. I'm not riding in an elevator with you today. Just kidding. How many of you raise your hand and say, you really hate it when people talk to you in elevators and airplanes? Okay. It's okay. We're going to be honest here. Judgment-free zone. I know you're working with people. You might as well put your hands up so they know to quit talking to you in the elevator. I have a job that I've been working with the last year and a half with an engineering firm in Kansas City. And I got on the elevator one day. Speaking of this, it always makes me think of this. I got on the elevator one day, and it was just another woman and I. And I stepped in. It was about 8:30 in the morning. I was going to do some work that day, and walked in, and I go, hi, good morning, how are you? And she goes, fine. And she turned completely. I was like, and I'm glad I'm getting off on the next floor. Have a great day. And then she ended up my training session. I just had to laugh. I was like, oh, yeah, you're the one. Guess what? I'm going to talk to you all day long. You did that. You set that up. Okay, so raise your hand then if you, speaking of elevators, you're the kind of person that will push that elevator button repeatedly. You're reminding it that you're standing there. Come on, let's go. We got things to do. All right? Raise your hand if you get really bugged when people are repeatedly pushing that elevator button. Okay? Yeah, right? Any of you want to admit that you once or twice have been accused of asking too many questions? Okay, got a few of you there. Because you know you're why learners. Why? 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 You got a 3-year-old, you're about ready to punch their lights out, right? You got employees in your office every time you do something, but why? They've got different processing. They might have thought patterns that are doing that need more information. Why? How do we know? Give me more data. How many of you would say that you get really uncomfortable when people ask you too many questions? Especially about you personally. Feel like they're stalking you? What do they want? Why are they going to do this? Raise your hand. You like to clean the house or the garage before you can relax? Okay, this is your relaxing. You can't wait to get to tomorrow. The perfect day to relax is going to be, whoo, finally get to clean out the garage. Okay. Some of you are like raising both hands. You're going to stand on the table and let everybody know. How many of you like to relax by avoiding any kind of cleaning? Okay. Admit it. You know it's you. It's okay. Judgment-free zone. You can be as honest as you want to be today. And if you're here by yourself, you can really be honest. How many of you would say you like to hang up items of clothing in your closet? By color, by season, by short sleeve, long sleeve, okay? And you're not too proud to admit it. Person next to you is looking at you going, really? People actually do that? Because you're the kind of person, raise your hand. Occasionally you'll take time to hang up your clothes. Maybe, on occasion. Random neuron fires, like this gentleman back here. He finally cleaned his desk in his garage, okay? I mean, his car. These are fun kind of ways, everyday occurrences, things that we find ourselves involved in. And there's a value here, isn't there? Those of you that raise your hand that you ask too many questions, there's a value attached to that for you. Because how else do you learn? How else do you get what you need? How else do you get the information that is going to help you be a better person and do a better job and get to where you need to be? Others are going, ask questions. Somebody else does that. I just got to get it done. Doesn't that affect you in the workplace? Doesn't it affect you in the workplace? And here's the thing about this. These are kind of fun. It kind of gets us laughing. We're looking around going, oh, yeah, it's me. Bottom line is, I always use this statement around the, hanging up items of clothing in your closet. It doesn't really matter what your closet looks like. The outcome is the fact that you got to get yourself dressed and out the door. And last I checked, all of you were dressed and out the door. Unless you're hiding something under the table that I didn't see. Stay there. But when you think about this, see, we're trying to get to the outcome. And in our work setting, aren't we still trying to get to the outcome? We get to work, we go into a meeting, we've got an agenda, and what happens in that agenda? Some of you look at the agenda and you say, wow, we are allowing only an hour and we've got all this on the agenda. I only scheduled an hour. I'm out of here after 60 minutes. Some of you walk into that meeting and you look at that agenda and you think, okay, this is good. Wow, I didn't get nearly enough information. I hope somebody's got some stuff they can provide for me that I have a chance to look at. And then pretty soon you start getting there, and in that there's some processes that start taking place. Somebody just wants to cross off the list. Okay, let's go down the road, check off, check off, check off, check. Oh, we got stuck here. Some of you are the kind of people that, we're talking 20 minutes in, you're still on this one item, and you're thinking, are we seriously still talking about this? Because I kind of had that figured out when I walked in the room and looked at the agenda. Bottom line is, it doesn't matter where you start. We all start at different places. Even the way we look at an agenda. And the bottom line is, coming out of that agenda and that meeting, we're trying to get to the same outcome. But there are going to be lots of detours and sidetracks. Some of you want to go straight through it. Some of you want to take the scenic route. Some of you want to take a little step and stop for a break. Some of you want to talk about it with your friends. When you can understand this and you can make room for this with your staff, with your team, with your organization, with the employees that you have, that you're working with, you'll provide for them a lot more opportunity to be true and authentic to who they are, and they will probably give to you a little bit more than what you're asking for and what they're doing now, because they'll be able to be more engaged. They'll be able to offer value, and you'll see the value that they bring. And looking at that is important. Thinking about that is a process. Let me ask you this question. Here's one more question. You're asked to go to a party with 100 people that you don't know. How many of you would say, I cannot wait? That sounds like so much fun. I see one hand. This whole room. Oh, okay, there's a few more. How many of you are saying, not on your life, there's no way I'm doing that? Okay? How many of you are somewhere in between? All right? So let me ask you this, again, about the process, so that you can understand why we have so many employee issues. Conflict in the workplace. Disengagement. Some of you read this and said, you're asked to attend. Okay, somebody asked me to attend. I can't let them down. If they ask me, they want me to be there. I've got a responsibility to do that and to go. And so you just responded and filtered through the asked me to attend. Some of you saw 100 people and went, nope, not going to happen. If there's 5 or 10, maybe. Some of you are going, only 100? It's a little boring. I need more. Some of you saw a party and you're thinking, what kind of party? It's Friday night. Where are we headed? Some of you saw just the fact that you don't know any of those people. One statement, one scenario, how many different filters do you suppose this went through? One meeting agenda for a meeting, for a project, for things you're trying to work through. How many different filters did it go through? And where do you start losing people along the way, and where does the disengagement take place? How do you keep them motivated when they feel like they don't have any kind of voice anytime because their filter is never honored and never valued? Because you just don't know. You just see them as annoying. They push every button that ever was, and they find new ones. And so thinking about that is an important piece. Peter Drucker, management and leadership guru, taught at the University of Claremont in California, says, one should waste as little effort as possible improving areas of competence because it takes far more energy to go from incompetence to mediocrity than from first-rate performance to excellence. We try to make people go from incompetence to mediocrity. We try to say to them, well, here's what's wrong with you, let's fix it. Instead of saying, wow, you've got some good stuff. I am so glad we hired you. You are a great asset to our team. I want to keep setting you up for success. How fabulous would that be? How many of you would love to walk into your boss's office and they would say, I have noticed what you're doing, and we are just going to keep letting you do more because you are amazing. Instead of just once a year performance management, they got to give you something good. You can laugh. It's kind of true. Sad but true. And don't we just live for those performance management annual reviews? Wow, we count the days. Most important factor in helping organizations grow is employee engagement. You think about employee engagement, you think about the people in your office or your team or about yourself. How do you define and describe engagement? How do you know when your staff is engaged? Give me some descriptors. Give me some words. Give me some behaviors. What's engagement? They participate in meetings. Yeah. How about that? They participate in meetings. I give you a little candy. I'm not above bragging. Yeah. Body language. That's a big one. Big one. What else? Huh? Lots of questions. There's those question people. Lots of questions because they want to know. They need information. What else? How do you know when they're engaged? What's it look like? What's it feel like? Eye contact. Yes. Yes, eye contact. What else? Ideas. All right, you get one, and where's the other idea person? Okay, can you catch? Can I throw? Okay, there we go. I have competition. I'm an athlete. No, just kidding. I like to think I am. Sorry, I'm glad I didn't hit somebody in the face. What else, though? What is engagement? Is it important? Does it matter? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, it really matters because it affects the bottom line. It affects morale. It affects teamwork. How do you know when you're engaged? Some of the things we've just said, but feels like you're connected to what's happening. You're excited. Gallup does a lot of research around engagement, a lot of research around strengths. What they have found over time is that when the organization is focusing on the strengths of the individual and the employees in the organization, about 9%, when they're focusing on the strengths, about 73% of the employees say they feel engaged. So let's think about that. That satisfaction, that excitement, they're asking questions, their body language is good, they're making eye contact. They feel engaged, they feel connected. When we're not looking at the employee's strengths, we're not thinking about who they are and what they do and what their value is, the assets that they bring, about 9% say, yeah, I feel engaged, I feel connected. That's a pretty big difference. If we're looking at employee engagement, we're trying to think about how we're going to grow our organization, and we want, bottom line, we want to increase productivity, and we want to think about how we can drive productivity, those kinds of things. Strengths plays a role. This engagement tool, some of you may be familiar with, called the Q12. Gallup uses these 12 questions to measure employee engagement, to look at what are we doing to keep our workplace healthy, productive, good morale, connection. And they use these 12 questions. And they put these 12 questions into this pyramid, if you will, this hierarchy. Do the people that come to work on a regular basis have their basic needs met? Do they have what they need? Do they know what's expected of them? If I didn't know what was expected of me, or I didn't have materials and equipment, it'd be a little frustrating to always have to come in. Tell me your name. Can I use you for this? Brenda. So if I worked with Brenda and she was my supervisor, and every time I came to work every day, I was just like, okay, Brenda, I did that project you asked me. Now what am I supposed to do? And then, oh, well, go take care of that. Okay. And then I come back. Okay, I did that. What? Now what? Because I don't know what's expected of me. That's going to grate on her, and it's going to really be frustrating for me. How do I get connected? I'm not given anything, and I don't know what's expected of me. Management support. This is important. This is important. Engaged employees are much more likely to consider their relationship with their manager as crucial to their success. Management. Somebody recognizing and acknowledging me? Do they even know what I'm doing? If they know, do they really care? Think about that woman this week that said, I just want to know what I have to do to get recognized and stand out. I know I do a good job, but I don't think anybody else does. The teamwork. Man, don't we love having to work with teams? Growth. Do you get a chance to have professional development? Is there an opportunity for growth? Somebody said last week, they said, you know, I have someone that I oversee, I supervise, and they don't even care if they ever do any professional development. You just don't want to do anything that's going to challenge them or cause them any opportunity for growth at all. After a while, you're going to be dragging those people. Take 3 steps forward, and you have to go back 2 to get them and drag them up to just where you were. Everybody's keep moving. That's a little difficult. We want to find ways to help them stay engaged in what they're doing. So let's stop for just a minute. I want you to turn to a partner. You didn't like the first person you talked to? Turn around, get to know. There's a lot of people. You can have a new one. Totally up to you. Pick a partner. But I want you to think for just a minute. I'm not going to give you a long time, but I want you to think about what drives your engagement. You don't have to answer both of these necessarily. But think about one or both of these questions. What's driving your engagement? I got to go to work in the morning. Well, at least I'm going to get a paycheck, so I'm going to show up. Not like, woo, I get to go to work. I'm working on that project. We're making progress. Can't wait to go to bed so you can get up in the morning. You're like, really? Some of you are rolling your eyes at me. I saw that. I won't point. Sorry. I saw that. Take a minute. What is driving your engagement? What keeps you going? Number 2 question, you can, like I said, pick one or the other, maybe both. I'd like for you to do both if you have time. You may not have time. What would you like to be recognized more for? How would that recognition keep you a little bit more engaged? What would you like to be recognized for more frequently? And if recognition, if you're getting hung up on recognition, then acknowledged. What would you like to get recognized or acknowledged for? More than you already are. It would just pull you over the edge just a little bit and cause you to be just that much more engaged in what you're doing. Okay? Give you just 3 or 4 minutes to have that conversation. Talk about your engagement. What's it look like? What's it feel like? Keeps you motivated, keeps you going. As you thought about what it is that drives your engagement that's important to you, somebody tell the group, either what's driving your engagement or what you'd like to be recognized and acknowledged for more than you already are. Making a difference. All right. Somebody else. I saw a hand. The people I work with. Isn't that great? She likes you. How often can you say that? Hopefully a lot. Relationships are important. What else? I love what I do. There you go. I love what I do. I love where I work, and I love who I work with. That's great. And that even gets to start feeling a little bit like, you know, it's not really a job. My brother was changing jobs. He lives in California, and he's a consultant for Kaiser, but before he was a HR director for the University of Southern California, USC. And he was doing some stuff, and when he switched to the job he has now, I said, how's your job? He'd been in it about a year, and I said, how's your job? He goes, what job? And I go, oh, did you come home to visit because you lost your job? I didn't know. He goes, no, what job? I love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job. I mean, it's just like, it's fun. I said, well, good. That makes a difference when we love what we're doing. I saw a hand over here. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Just getting acknowledged that you are doing a good job, not just in that lovely annual review process. Somewhere along the way, there's a little token that's given that says, hey, I appreciate you. You're doing a great job. Sometimes that's all it takes, keeps us going. What else? What do you want to be recognized more for, or what is currently driving your engagement? Yeah, being needed. Ooh, a little off, sorry. Didn't get my follow-through quite right. Being needed. Somebody asks questions, you're there, you're able to provide that. What else? Pardon? Advocating, there you go. Great, and I saw another one. Being valued. I appreciate you. Just a simple thank you sometimes goes a long way, doesn't it? Yeah. When's the last time you asked your employees, not in a performance management evaluation process, when's the last time you asked them, what's driving your engagement? What keeps you getting up in the morning and coming to work? When's the last time you asked them, what can I do to recognize you more? What do you need more from me? How can I just acknowledge and recognize you? Yeah. I have a need to be successful. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily even have to do with all the people around us. Some of us, it's that motivation I talked about earlier. I'm motivated by the fact that I have a need to be successful. And I have my own benchmarks for that and my own scale that I'm using. And I'm measuring that. And yes, if you recognize that and acknowledge that along the way, great. But I've got my own, checkmark system for that. And so if I feel like I'm doing that, I'm engaged in what I'm doing, and it keeps me going. When we cease to feel like we're contributing and we can be successful in that environment, it makes it difficult. Thinking about this is important. I lost my clicker. That's not good. There it is. Hiding, black on black. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and so, again, engagement is important. Thinking about the fact if you get the opportunity to do what you do best every day, take a risk. Ask your employees. How would they respond? What would they say? How do they feel about what they're doing and what you're asking them to do and how connected they are and engaged? The majority of the workforce isn't engaged. I'm going to skip over here to this one. It shows the same numbers and describe it. The majority of the workforce is not engaged, and that's a little bit disappointing because it affects bottom line. Gallup does, as I mentioned, engagement research every year. They do a poll and they ask questions and they use the Q12. And when they first began their engagement research, they came up with 3 types of employees that emerged out of the research: engaged, not engaged, and actively disengaged. The engaged employees are those that have some ownership. We call them sort of the owners, if you will. They feel ownership and connected. Doesn't matter what level they are in or what role or what responsibility they have in the whole scheme of the grand big picture of the organization. They feel connected and they've got some ownership. About 31.5%, maybe 32% say, I feel engaged. They're much more loyal, miss fewer days of work. The second group that emerged is the not engaged. We call them the renters. Don't say any names. You've got the pictures of the people in your mind already. They're just renting space. They show up at 8. They leave at 5. They have not got a lot of energy. They're not really connected to anything. Look, I did my job. What more do you want? Right? Sorry. That's me. I had it turned off, I thought, but apparently not. I just wanted you to know that people do need me. 51%, over half. Just kind of showing up, going through the motions, getting their job done, check it off the list. The actively disengaged are those that are they're kind of the deconstruction crew. Misery loves company. You know who I'm talking about? Managers spend 85% of their time with this group, trying to keep them moving. And so with that, Gallup takes each year and they take a subset of the polling population around engagement and they ask the next question. Tell me about the person to whom you directly report. Because again, going back to that, employees consider their relationship with their manager crucial to their success. The first group that emerged was the ignored group. The person I directly report to doesn't know really that I exist, can't get on their calendar, they don't return emails, they don't walk around the office, they don't know what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. Second group is the weaknesses group. Well, they tell me all the time what's wrong with me, they want to fix it, and so they're always focused on my weaknesses. And you can see that engagement increases a little bit because it's sort of the Hawthorne effect. The Hawthorne effect kind of says, hey, somebody's watching me, my boss is watching me, I better do a better job. And then when I get to that level where I meet the boss's expectations, then what happens? I go right back to what comes naturally for me, what energizes me and engages me, what keeps me going. The third is the strengths. This is where the aha moment occurred for Gallup in their engagement research and the connection of strengths to engagement, where they said the person to whom I directly report knows what I do best. You know what my strengths are. They set me up for success. They keep asking me if I can do more. Do you want to do more? And they let me do what I love to do. When employees are able to use their strengths every day, they are 6 times more likely to be engaged than those who don't. 1 out of 100 actively disengaged, as opposed to more than that. Makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things in the bottom line. We think about managers and the importance of that. Great managers are the bedrock of great organizations. They are the glue that creates and holds together all of the people that are coming together, and they power the high-performing companies. This is what actively disengaged might look like, right here. We don't want that culture to take over. What we feed and breed is the culture that we begin to experience in our organization. More than one person had to allow this to happen. You can hear the rhetoric, can't you? The people that did that. It doesn't matter, it's just the side of the road. I'm going to stoop down and pick up that tree. I don't really care. Giving people an opportunity to do what they do best. To get the most from your team, you must, as a manager, help the employees mold their job around the way that they work most naturally. Maximize the frequency of optimizing their experiences, where they lose themselves in what they're doing. They lose track of time. They get lost in the zone. They're internally motivated. They find themselves naturally gifted. This is where, again, you don't just wait for the annual review. You do some one-on-ones. Every 2 or 3 months, you might ask a conversation, how can I be a better partner to you? What do you enjoy most about your job? Tell me about your most favorite thing today. What do you need to be recognized and acknowledged? Having these conversations. What do you do best? You ever asked your employees, 6 months in, tell me what you do best. You've been here a while now. What would you say you do best? Ask them the questions I had you share in the very beginning. Tell me a word or a phrase you'd use to describe yourself. Tell me something you're proud of, an accomplishment in the last 3 months. Because by the time it gets to the annual review, we don't remember what we did the month after that last year's annual review. Keep it going. Have conversations. Their response is rarely going to be a job description. It's going to be more about their talents and how they think about things, what motivates them. I want to feel like I'm being successful. I like the people I work with. It's an instinctive part of them rather than a very specific job. I like filing papers every day. No, I like the feeling of helping organize and helping other people be successful or whatever, however they translate that. Rarely is it going to be a specific job, a specific task. And so thinking about that's important. And when you look at this, one of the key things here as you are working to help them do what they do best and keep them motivated and having opportunities, it requires that we have to listen to them. Like really listen. They might say to you, Mr. Manager, Miss Manager, I need to be recognized a little bit more for this thing. Listen to what energizes them. He or she knows what energizes them. They know what engages them and where they are thriving. You can best judge their performance. They can best tell you what's energizing and listening to that. We can maximize our talents because when we know what they do well, we can begin to see how they execute and carry out and meet deadlines. We can see how they manage conflict. We can see how they do critical thinking and problem solving. We can see how they build relationships. We recognize how they really do impact and influence those around them. We know their areas of excellence. We can help them use their strengths by putting them in situations or with other people where those strengths can be alive. I love that. Setting you up for success when your strengths can be alive. If you are a people person, they've got you in a cubicle, you don't get to talk to anybody all day long, your strengths are not going to be very alive. When you come out of there, you're going to talky people to death. And they're like, I got things to do, man. They just want to stand around and talk. They've been in a cubicle for the last 2 hours, not talking to anybody. They need to talk. It's important to them. It's a value. If they've got you making decisions on the fly all the time and you've got to come up with solutions and you are a thinker and you need the data and you have to have time to reflect and you need to meditate on what's going on and you really need to speak after you've had that, you're going to get frustrated. Sometimes we are in certain situations where we think, man, it's just not a fit. And sometimes it isn't. But we have to think about, can we use our strengths? Are they coming alive? And when I have opportunity to help people really be who they were made to be and use their giftedness, I win and they win. How much more fun is it? I get to see them thriving and excited and wanting to come to work every day and contribute and take on a little more and volunteer to be the one who does certain things because that's who they are anyway. And so thinking about that, again, asking the questions. Think for a minute. Just think real quick. If you've used StrengthsFinder, you might have a language. If you've not used StrengthsFinder, I want you to think right now about the 3 people that you work with the most. You need to write their name down, write their name down. Who are the 3 people you work with the most right now on a consistent basis? You know how they execute and get things done? Do you understand? Do you know what drives them? You see the way they influence and impact the team and the decision making, the information they provide? Do you know what it is that drives them to solve problems? You see what it is that helps them build relationships? See, one of the things that's important is that our followers, they need from us to build trust. You need that stability. And one of the things we think about building trust, we often think it's purely about the relationship or the empathy or the way that we connect with them around relationship building skills. And in strengths, when we look at strengths and we take the assessment and we get some of the results, some are more about relationship building than others. But just because you're top 5 in your results of your StrengthsFinder aren't in relationship building, you still have to build relationship and establish trust. So thinking about the 3 people that you work with most consistently right now, you see how you can provide opportunity for them to do more where their strengths become alive? Where you give them a chance to just open up even more, to be even more connected, more engaged, more empowered? What would that look like if you left here and you went back and said, wow, I need to ask a few more questions. I need to see how I can be a better partner to them. I need to recognize ways that I can keep them engaged and make sure I understand what it is that engages them. And how you can impact that. It's an important piece. Another thing, let's talk just a minute about StrengthsFinder. I want to give you the overview so you can understand a little bit more about what it is and what it does. And then we'll come back to, again, some more application around that in the workplace. StrengthsFinder is a web-based assessment. It's 177 items. It's online. It is paired statements. Some self-descriptors that are sort of anchors at the end of a continuum. You get about 20 seconds to respond because we want your off the top of your head. It measures the presence of talent. StrengthsFinder is a starting point for self-discovery. Oh, I know who I am. I know all about myself. I'm a people person. But it gives you more information and more why you do certain things and how it is that you are that people person. It helps you think about your individual growth and development. When you develop your strengths, we think about this using StrengthsFinder. One of the things I like to think about is it's kind of like a construction zone, and your strengths lay the foundation for you. And it validates who you are and what you've been doing your whole life already, except that we've been so criticized sometimes for that we don't realize it's really a good thing. Or we do it so naturally, we just think everybody does it. So what's the big deal anyway? And so when we think about that and we look at that, this is that self-discovery. And we can build on that foundation of who we are, something that's very special and lasts for a long time. Because hopefully we're going to last for a long time. We're going to keep going. And it gives us a chance to learn and to live and operate out of our own giftedness. The way we've been designed anyway. Stuff we've been doing since we were in grade school. Kind of hardwired. Sometimes we look at people and we are trying to get a point across and we just think, oh my gosh, how hard is it? Seriously, you can't get this? Well, they may not be able to. Not the way you do. And so it's this self-discovery. It begins to give you insight around why that person really drives you crazy. Why you just kind of go, I can't work with that person. I just can't. Why there's some employee relations that go awry sometimes. And so we look at this, and so when you're going to take the assessment, you get, this is what it looks like. For those of you that haven't taken it, just so you understand a little more about what we're talking about. It might give you 2 phrases. I like to organize, I like to analyze. And you pick the one that's most like you, and it begins to measure sort of this preference that you have around the values, what's important to you. I like to organize, or I like to analyze. If Randall's taking this, he's marking the analyzing. If I'm taking it, I'm marking the organizing. If you're taking it, you might think, man, I can do both. Flip a coin, I'll be happy. So you do the neutral. Or one, I'm not completely over there, but I'm closer there. Maybe you like to think or you like to talk. Which one? And what happens is then you get your result and it measures those themes of your greatest talent. And a talent theme is a group of similarities. And so if it comes out to be the theme of achiever, Some of the talents is that you enjoy hard work and you like to push hard so you get your tasks completed. And you are the kind of person that's going to find satisfaction the more you can cross off your list. You're internally motivated. You got a lot of stamina and just keep going and keep moving. And then some of those may not all fit in there, but they're generally descriptive of you. Most of them fit because when Dr. Clifton and his research team interviewed over 2 million people over 40 years, 4 decades, they found that there were a lot of themes emerging. So they grouped them as best they could around the similar talents, what they look like in action, what they sound like. The themes that are measured, it measures your talent. Put those talent into 34 themes. There's 278,000 possible combinations. Another reason people say, well, I don't think I want to take that. I might not have any strengths. I don't know. So many different combinations. So many possibilities that make you who you are and very unique. It gives you a little bit about it. 3 decades, now 4. There's criterion-related studies. There's predictability and reliability and all of those kinds of things. The test-retest is about 0.6 to 0.8. Validity over the course of a longitudinal study comes out to about 0.74. So it, even though it's forced choice, even though it forces you to decide if you like to think or talk, it still gives you information about that. Some of the outcomes, sometimes people say, okay, but what are some of the outcomes? What's the big deal? What's this going to do? Well, it provides a common language, if nothing else. Because you can say, oh, that's that achiever thing, huh? Okay, I get it. Oh, yeah, that intellection, you need more time to think about it. Sorry, I pushed you for a response. And it's a common language. We think right away. It validates who you are. I can take a step back and go, oh, okay, got it. And it validates, and I can honor then who you are. And it jumpstarts the conversation because it provides us a springboard. And so when we think about this, and again, we've looked at it, not to mention what we've already talked about, the impact it has on engagement, where employees that are using their strengths are 6 times more productive than those who aren't. 6 times. Some of you are thinking, I'd just like to get double the effort out of some of the people I have. If you could get 6 times, because they get to do what they love to do. There's 34 themes. These are the themes of talent. You would get top 5. There are lots of talents associated with each. So sometimes people say, okay, really though, why does strengths matter? I mean, what? It's just another tool, it's just another assessment. Why does it matter? Well, when you put your strengths into action, and you understand how engagement, well-being, and strengths all intersect, then you begin to see a little bit more the bigger picture. It's that mind, body, and soul. Well-being is the mind, body, and soul, how you think about and experience your life. It's lives well lived. It's a career that matters. It's having purpose. You're more productive individually and in the team. You're more productive and feel a greater sense of success and accomplishment personally and professionally. If well-being or engagement isn't in a good place, then your top 5 themes look and feel very different to the people around you. If I don't get a chance to do what I do best every day and use my strengths, then I'm not as likely to be engaged. And then what happens to my well-being? What happens physically? What happens emotionally? What happens mentally? What happens spiritually, however you define and describe that, whatever impact that holds in your life. What happens relationally? What happens socially? happens financially. Things begin to go a little bit off. You start feeling less than well. And so recognizing this, setting people up for success, giving them opportunity makes a difference. And we can capitalize on it because, again, not only have we just talked about engagement, but there's higher levels of motivation. And personal satisfaction. Don't you feel more satisfied when you do something that you love to do? I'll go right back here to I love what I do. I love the people I do it with. I love everything about it. I feel good. There's great satisfaction there. You're producing at a higher level. You have job satisfaction and longevity. There's not as much turnover, which can be good or bad. There's not as much turnover. It's not like a revolving door around your place. You can build some relationships and establish some good things. I've talked a little bit about using strengths in performance management in some staff development. What does that look like? How does that come into play? It's kind of, sometimes it becomes a paradigm shift in the performance management process. But it begins to help find the work that the employee does as important to the team or the organization as critical to engagement and to productivity. When performance management is focused on how the individual strengths are contributing to the team success and how they can be leveraged even more, then when they're specifically recognized and regarded and rewarded within the context of the work that's being done by the team, a natural feedback cycle sort of begins to take place. I bring something important to the team. I'm valued here. What I'm doing and the work that I'm offering and the contribution I'm making to the team is important. Wow. And I get a chance to do that again. This engineering firm I'm working with, we've rewritten their processes around their evaluation, their staff development, be strengths-based. They're a good organization. They're voted in the top 3 or 4 in Kansas City every year is one of the best places to work. They've got great morale, always in the community, always in the news for the things they're doing outside of their jobs. They said, we want to continue to impact our employees. We want to see this from a strengths perspective. So we spent some time. What does it look like? How would your evaluations change if it became strengths-based? What would that do? A year later, they've cycled through. Getting, again, 6 times more, not so much that specific to them, but greater involvement. I mean, they already had engaged employees, but even more, the productivity, the morale is continuing to increase. I'm thinking about that. There's other ways to do this. It begins to help us keep higher morale, motivation, developing our employees, giving them opportunities, setting them up for success. When we look at this, the other thing we can look at is the fact that strengths impacts leadership. It affects who we are and what we're doing. The most effective leaders surround themselves with the right people, and then they maximize their teams. Everybody on your team does not have the exact same job, and if they do, they don't have the exact same strengths. And if they have similar strengths, they still don't do it the same way. The start to finish. Whether their clothes are all hung on hangers and neatly organized and they're all the same color hanger and they're all going the same way or not, you're still going to get to the same outcome. Just the journey that they take to get there is different. So you can put people around you to impact. Because I'm a sports nut, I always think about the whole process of what teams look like in the athletic world. We don't just have all quarterbacks. Defensive tackles. We don't have a bunch of first basemen. We got 2 catchers in the Kansas City Royals. And so on and so forth. And so building people around you. It takes all of us playing our own unique specified position, if you will, to bring the team to success and excellence. And I already mentioned, we have to understand the followers' needs. They have an expectation for those of us that are in management or supervision or leading a project. And it's very critical for us to understand the people that we are leading and what they need and what they expect. You know, whether you like it or not, they have an expectation about what you're going to do for them and how you're going to lead them. And how you're going to recognize and how you're going to acknowledge and what you're going to do to set them up for success and what you're not going to do. They have an expectation. Those expectations often come out of their needs. We're having conversations, we understand how we can be a better partner, we're asking them what it is that engages them and gets them up in the morning to come to work every day and their favorite part of their work. We are understanding their needs. More capable of meeting their expectations. Path to great leadership starts with a deep understanding of you. What are you bringing to the table? What expectations are you bringing in? What needs do you have? How are you leading? What are you thinking? You set up, I'm going to get this team together and bring this group together. We're working on this project. You've got expectations. What are you bringing to the project? We don't know what our strengths are. We don't know what drives us. We don't know what engages us. It's a little bit difficult for us to lead effectively, for us to engage others in the process, if we're still trying to floundering around trying to figure that out. But we lead in our different talents and our different ideas and our different limitations and our different expectations. I like to lead from a, hey, this is what we're doing, here's the steps, start at point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, very organized, very structured, hey, let's go. We've thought about it, now let's just do it. And I know that. So I have to make sure that I make room for the others who say, yeah, but I'd like to add a little, can we think about this? Can we think about that? Can we have some more, color to your black and white world? Your black and white world. Can we just add a little more color? I think it will make it a little bit better. The other thing that happens is that we can look at this not only in the strengths world around what my strengths or my top 5 helps me do the employee on my job, or what it helps you do to understand me or me to understand you, or working together, but it helps us understand our leadership. And we can put these into domains. What does it look like in action? Well, some of you, if you take the assessment and you look at what your top 5 strengths are, you are the kind of person that gets things done. You execute the task, you get it out there, you make things happen. If somebody needs you to implement, I'm the one. And I will work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night to get it done. I might even come on Saturday for you, because I'm going to help you get it done. And if you've got an idea, I can make it a reality. I'll take it. You got an idea? Great. Tell me what you want. I'll make it happen. That's the executing. You have that kind of leadership style and ability. Some of you are relational, or influencing. Let me talk about that one first. You are the salespeople. If your organization's trying to get something across, or you're in a small team and you're trying to communicate it to the whole organization, you're that person. Internally and externally, you sell the ideas. You sell to the broader audience. You are able to take charge, get buy-in, network, communication. You're the voice. You can impact and influence. You want to make sure that your group gets heard. The relationship building is exactly what it sounds like. You're the glue that holds the team together, building those relationships, making sure that everyone is being recognized and using the opportunity that each brings to the table to create groups that are greater than just individuals. And then strategic thinking is what it sounds like. What should we be doing? What does it look like? Where could we be? The envisioning, stretching us toward the future. Absorbing information, analyzing, helping the team make wise decisions. Healthy decisions, better decisions. And then you can take the information with your team and you can map it. And you can begin to look at, wow, what does our team look like? What is this over the whole process? Where do we really get the heavy or not? And let me point out here, since many of you are HR directors, this isn't a hiring and firing tool. I started working with the engineers and we were doing all this mapping, and I started presenting like, I don't want people to know that because I don't have anything in relationship building. If I don't have anything in relationship building, or if I don't have anything in strategic thinking, are they going to fire me? I'm going to lose my job now that we're looking at everybody's strengths? Or you can look at that and say, wow, we don't have a lot around influencing. Maybe we should hire someone around influencing. Remember that statistic I gave you a few minutes ago, 278,000 possible combinations? Good luck finding a person that's going to fit right into that influencing. And so looking at that, but it gives you then, now we call it a profile or a map, because you can see what your team looks like and how they work together, and then you can look at what you contribute to the team. Because you just look at your top 5, yeah, this is what it helps me do, but wow, in the grand scheme of the whole team, no wonder I'm the one who they count on for this, who offers this, who provides that. Now I get it. I understand why these people I don't work with all the time, and they're on our team, but I don't work with them every day, I don't interact with them, they're the ones, they're always coming to me, now I get it. And it looks like this. This is just a small group. I've done some with, do all different ones. As a hiring strategy, the way that we suggest and for hiring is to, some organizations will use StrengthsFinder and have maybe their final 3 candidates for a position take it, and then they'll ask questions around that just to get a snapshot and kind of look at it. Some will put it into, if they've already done this within their organization and the department, they'll drop those into the map of that team that they're joining and just kind of see, but not say, well, they still kind of leave us weak in executing. Is that going to be okay? And so that's a, but sometimes not, because intentionally you look at it and go, whoa, they've got 4 of their themes in executing. That's great. Are they the one we want? Don't just fill the gap. Make sure it's the right one. So that's how we use it in the interview process, in the hiring selection piece. And so then you can take this information and you can then use it to have some questions around your team. Really look at your team. How do we perform? How do we build relationships? How do we manage conflict and resolve it? How do we celebrate our successes? How do we set goals and objectives? And you can kind of look at it just across the board. Are we going to set goals and objectives because we're highly relational? If it was more executing, it would be more about what we're going to get done and how we're going to cross it off the list, because that's what some of the motivation is. So you can look at it in lots of different ways. If you just go home from here and take the assessment and try to map it, it still probably won't make a lot of sense to you. But it at least opens up your eyes and your heart and your mind to some of the thoughts around it. Marcus Buckingham, who worked with Dr. Don early on, and they both wrote Now Discover Your Strengths, the first book that really came out, said, in the minds of great managers, consistent poor performance is not primarily a matter of weakness, stupidity, disobedience, or disrespect. It's a matter of miscasting. Again, the miscasting, not saying, well, let's fill the gap where we don't see it on the profile. The miscasting around not letting them realize what their strengths are and setting them up for success, to be enlivened, to be engaged, to be encouraged and empowered around who they are and what they're doing. Questions? Got a couple minutes here. Try to finish close. Give time for questions. Anybody have a question? I've got more candy. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right. It's a good question. If you couldn't hear him, said, you got 3 people. It looks like they all have one common thread around their strengths. And you look and you say, okay, here's John, and here's Jim, and here's Susan. And if Susan had a little more of John, wow, we could do really amazing things with her. We're getting bogged down over here. Well, rather than comparing, figure out what other talents and strengths she has. and give her opportunity to leverage those, because she might be just as good a top performer as John over here or Jim, but she's going to do it a different way. So rather than saying, well, she didn't have this, I need to fix that and make her have more of that, well, let's see who she has. It's hard enough to draw out what's already in there without trying to put in what we think should be in. So let's not try to put in what we think. Let's look at what's there and try to draw that out. And I think that's where those deeper conversations begin to happen. What do you love to do? Tell me the most favorite thing you're doing in your job. How can I be a better partner to you? What would you like to do more of? And then you begin to set them up for it, and because they're going to tell you. You see their performance, but listen to what engages them, what empowers them, where they get excited. Tell me about a time you got lost in the zone. What were you doing? You get a chance to do that every day? No? How could I help you do more of that? And then you'll get that top performance because you're appealing to who she is and you're valuing that and saying, okay. Because you probably don't want her to have those same. If you can get her to really rise to the occasion and see what she brings to the table, then you'll have a stronger team rather than making two people do the same thing, be the same way. Does that help answer your question? I saw a hand back here. Somebody had a question? You raise your hand. Yes. Yeah. And the 34 themes, you caught that woo factor there? Woo stands for winning others over. There are some who have woo. Raise your hand back there. You got woo, don't you? Yeah, if you've taken strengths, you've got woo. You are the kind of person that has never met a stranger. You can break the ice, whether it's one-on-one or in a large group. You can meet people. You can bring disparate groups together. You can win them over, and you can get buy-in and create that. But it starts with the way you break the ice and meet people. One of the things that happen, you've probably met the woos when you go to a party, or this morning on break, you'll meet them. They'll want to meet you because they have to know who's in the room. You're 100 new friends waiting to happen, not 100 strangers. That's what that stands for. Somebody else? Any other questions? All right. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great day.